Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is Two Up and Two Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Up and Two Down. Today we are doing The Airport, a great season 4 episode. And Chris, we're starting with you. What's your first up?
Yeah, The Airport, Larry Charles, season 4. Again, we have to give 2 ups, 2 positives of this episode, of course, 2 downs. Always a challenge, but that's what we're here for you, America. And for me, listen, The Airport, you want to call me Mr. Sentimentality, fine. Friend of the show. When I think of The Airport, you don't think of The Airport without thinking about Mark Christopher Lawrence, okay? The whole bit, Jerry and Elaine, obviously, rushing to the airport. We saw, the whole thing. They asked Mark Christopher about the tipping. I usually get $5 a bag. And then Elaine's reaction. And then obviously just Jerry has that likability. JFK Honolulu. I mean, what can you say? When you think of the airport, whenever I hear JFK, I always say that line, taking the bags, JFK, Honolulu. And then obviously that proceeds into the whole running scene. I don't want to take that in case that's one of Tony's up. So I'll leave it there. Mark Christopher Lawrence setting the tone for the episode.
Solid up right there. Great line. Whenever I hear The Airport, that's one of the first lines I'm thinking of. So good one there. Tony, over to you. What's your first up?
My first up is George and Kramer in the car. It's an unbelievable scene. It gets me every time. I cannot express the feeling I get from a perfect pickup. You know, the whole Van Wyck callback with Kramer driving, and then the all-timer. You know, I like to stop at the duty-free shop. I like to stop at the duty. I mean, you got to believe that was ad-lib. The two of them just start singing the fucking song. I like to stop at the duty-free shop. Amazing. Do you know what duty is? Duty? Yeah, duty. You know what duty is? Every single time in an airport, I always think about that and say that line. I mean, this is the thing. Jerry's a stand-up comic. There had to be an airport episode. This was it early on, season 4. A lot to like, as O'Hara mentioned, but nothing better than a George and Kramer combo, you know, bringing them along and just everything about it. We'll get there. I'm just talking about the car scene, duty-free shop. That's my first up.
Yeah, you're right. This is probably one of the best George Kramer combos that you get in any episode. So yeah, obviously a great up there. Chris, back to you. What's your second up?
Incredible. I don't even know why Kramer is driving. I don't even care. Like, obviously George lost a bet, but those two together, oh my God. So yeah, and then many scenes later with them, but I could touch on it if we don't get enough ups here, but. I mean, Larry Charles, just brilliant. I mean, the division of class as a society, right? The whole first class discussion, I can't, I won't. I mean, love that. And how that just pivoted into pretty much the whole episode, right? And, you must be Cinderella, more of everything. Just the way Jerry was getting everything versus what Elaine was getting, and obviously her inner monologues and things of that nature were just, I mean, the way he penned this and shaped this on an airplane to signify the divisions of class was just brilliant. And we're talking about the grade, but again, it's not really New York. It's just relatability. Everyone's had that frustration in life, not just at airports, but certainly something we can all relate to. So, and not only that, it made it really funny. I mean, the first class stuff was just, Tia Van Camp, would love to have her on the program, obviously, one day. She was excellent as well. I'm probably taking too much here. I'll stop. So that's the whole class division, second up.
No, you're right. All of it being relatable again. It hit all aspects of why you hate flying. The rental car sucks. You miss the shuttle. The plane gets rerouted, canceled. Missing luggage and, an overcrowded plane, just like you said, the class divisions. So yeah, it hits on all cylinders with that. And plus, you mentioned one of my favorite lines is "more everything." I probably say that at least once a week. So, yeah, that's a great point and great up there. So, Tony, going back to you, what's your next up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a fan favorite over here. This is a great episode. Your heart touched on a lot there. I mean, I'm sticking with what to me, there's a lot that I like about this episode. But to me, it's Kramer, and it's a Kramer and George episode. O'Hara just touched on the class stuff with Elaine and Jerry. I think it's George and Kramer is the part that, to me, carries us to a higher grade than I normally. Anyway, my point is, listen to the bell grows bar and it tolls for thee. I mean, the K-Man. When Kramer goes up to the guy and he does that, like, that's what he decides to do. He doesn't go up to the guy, hey, you remember me? I'm Kramer. He does this thing with his face, and he's like, what are you doing? And then just give me your money. I mean, classic Kramer. Like, what is he doing? Like, I mean, obviously it's like before a lot of like stuff with the airport. He just gets right off the plane and he does that. Like, yeah, look at this. Like, I absolutely love that scene. I love that guy. Just like, what are you, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Give me your money. The listen to the bell grows bar. It tolls for thee. I mean, K-Man at his best and just bringing George along. I'm going to kind of steal it, but the whole, give me your card, like the Super Saver. You idiot. Kramer, of course, screws it up. I mean, those two together is amazing. And this was no different. That's my second up.
Yeah, another great example of Kramer coaxing George into another bad situation that just goes terribly wrong. So those are ups. Chris, over to you. Any downs? What do you got?
That's the beauty of this show. There's always downs, always two downs. So here we go. Listen, for me, it's the stand-up with Jerry. Obviously, it's the core of the show. It's why we love the show. It's what differentiates the show. But let's be honest, sometimes there's a miss here. I mean, the whole bathroom, the bathroom's like an apartment. What? What are you talking about?
Party or whatever.
That makes small. I mean, but listen, and then stand by, like you're there just standing saying bye. Little bit of a miss, obviously. But again, they had to do stand up. I think they had to weave obviously airport into it. Jerry's not going to do his old peanuts joke, right? So they had to try new things, but for me, it was a bit of a miss. So his stand-up bit, first down.
Tony, over to you. What's your first up? Or I'm sorry, your first down?
Yeah, when he's going with stand-up bits, I think I know where this career's heading. He's trying to dig for downs. He's going with the stand-up bit. I get it, which leads me. I'm happy because he probably won't steal one of my downs. I only have a couple, so I'm hoping I can use them both. My first one, and this is kind of going against a little bit of O'Hara's up, is I don't know what it is, man, but the Jerry stuff kind of gets to me on this one. Just a little too much with the model and the Tuscany region and the saffron and the lilacs. Every time the students comes by, they got one more thing with the sundae. And, the model says to Jerry, I never met a man who knows so much about nothing. Goes back to if you've seen our implant one when, everything is so neat. They do this inner kind of jokes about Jerry. I don't never like that. The jeans. Oh, they're right there. They're the whole thing. The whole thing. I just, it's too much. Jerry the model is just too much. I love when he does this whole thank you with his little look. That was one of my ups. From there, they just, I get it, but I just think it irritated me. I don't know why. Maybe we're supposed to. Maybe you're supposed to feel that irritation that you're Elaine in the lower class and there's Jerry doing,
That's exactly
right. I get it. But to me, it was just too much and it loses its funniness at a point. It becomes more of his arrogance that Jerry has about him that I think rubs me the wrong way in this episode. And that's my down. It was a big one, but that's my big matzo ball. That's my down.
Yeah, listen, everybody's got their own downs, but I don't feel the same sentiment. I think that points out.
Howard definitely doesn't feel the same. I just thought that was a down.
But anyway, so Chris, back to you. What do you got for another down?
No, America, you guys know this. My partner is tough on Jerry. You name the season, he's tough on it. For me, and Jerry is that anchor boy, and he was wonderful in this episode. And everything you just mentioned, I love. Lilacs, Tuscany. Oh, man. perfect fit Cinderella. Not the best. Anyway, I think. And again, I'm looking for nitpicks here. And again, it's just little things, but again, Elaine sneaking into first class. I thought there were no seats available. What is she doing up there? How did she even get through there?
It was a whole row.
We have, whole row pretty much. We have 2 seats available. One is in first class. Now, you freaking flowers gonna be like, well, that doesn't mean, maybe whatever. The point is, I don't know how she snuck up there. I kind of liked when she get in there. She's no cookie, but how that happened, I guess. They probably shouldn't have made that point. There were only 2 seats earlier, but maybe just made it structured that there were just 2 seats for them per se. Whatever it may be, there was a little off on that, but that's my second down.
Tony, over to you. What do you got for your second down?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm if you know where I'm going with this. I already told you, George and Kramer, huge up for me. I just told you the Jerry stuff was a little bit of a down. A little bit of a down. I'm not knocking it too much, but you got to give it down here. That's what we're doing. I thought it was overplayed. And I think my second down is Elaine. Elaine's inner monologue, not the subway. I gave the Elaine's inner monologue in the subway a huge up. I think this one falls a little short. Her whole inner monologue on, the guy sleeping and she's like, hey, wake up, whatever, the whole thing there. It's not terrible, but I got to find downs. That's my down. I mean, I think, Jerry stuff I already gave you. And I think Elaine stuff along the same lines, they're doing the same in Elaine. All the bad stuff that can happen to her, all the good stuff to Jerry. I mentioned it earlier. It's all great. I get it. But to me, a little overdone. And to me, it's not as, I hold the George Kramer stuff higher in this episode is all I'm saying. So that's my down is the Elaine kind of inner monologue specifically. That's my down.
All right. Well, there you go. 2 ups, 2 downs from the both of you. So now we're going over to grades. Chris, what's your first grade here?
Unbelievable. I think my partner's got a bone to pick with Larry Charles. Something this episode.
Well, let me give my grade and we'll get there.
Elaine, inner monologue up and big up. I want to give her kudos.
Julie, if you're watching, he's giving you kudos.
Let me just say this. I wrote down the grade before I watched this episode. I know this episode. I know like the back of my hand. This is an A+. A+. Right up there with any episode you've ever seen. And guess what, folks? There's no Jerry's apartment. There's no monks. There's none of that. And it's just brilliance. Larry Charles at his best. All 4 on all cylinders. Yeah. George, we didn't even mention George, the Time magazine. I'm going to read it in the park. I mean,
you are in Shackles.
There are, potentially the only down moment maybe is in the beginning when Elaine, they're talking about could have saw her sister, but that kind of set the tone on what they were doing there. I mean, the blurb, duty for shop, the awning. I mean, because within this episode, you're thinking about George, like you're thinking about him trying to reach that awning.
Picturing that every time.
So there's so much going on, right? And Kramer, we didn't even talk about Kramer running outside the plane and coming through the luggage chute. It is just jam packed. I talked about the classes, and you're right. What's so unique about this is just Jerry and Elaine together, if you will, and George and Kramer together, if you will, which I actually appreciated. There was none of this like, let's weave it in, all hit each other at the end. Like they did a little bit with Kramer. I get it, but you know what I mean? So, and then on top of that, Mark Christopher Lawrence, Grossbart, the killer guy, J.J. Bullock, right, from whatever the hell show that was, Too Close for Comfort. Larry David yelling, I got the kosher meal, to, Columbus's wife sitting next to Elaine, to Larry Charles coming out of the bathroom taking a shit. We've all been there, right? I mean, Elaine you could just feel her. You could feel her in this episode. Again, that's funny. Like, just the way, the frustration beyond belief, and then the joy, right? When we saw her, I mentioned it down. when she came to the first class, just amazing. And, Tia Van Camp, the Calvin Klein model. I mean, what can you say, right? She was great, not overdoing it. I know Tony's pointing out the jeans, but like it's kind of what modeling is, and we get it, right? The airport, I mean, I said it's so relatable, yet it's also kind of so New York with the traffic and this and the perfect pickup. I can't, I mean, it's an A+, an A+.
I agree with 100% everything you just said there. So yes, an A+, well deserved. Tony, are you going to match it? You have any further critiques that's going to lower that grade?
He's right up here.
I got a lot here. I mean, first of all, we knew this. I knew this was going. I was prepared for it. I mean, this is his episode. It's fair. We all have our wild cards. The pen, I was up there. Listen, I'm not knocking this episode. I don't think by any means I've knocked it at all. I feel like I gave 2 small downs. I think a lot going on. Real relatability. I love, I lived in a story. I used to go at LaGuardia all the time. Airport pickup was a big thing. Got to make sure, you know how to get there. You pull right up front, especially in New York. You don't want to have to park if you can't. Circle around, get there right when George is right about that. George and Kramer together, amazing. I went over that. I'm not even going to go there because that's amazing. I can't argue that at all. This is Larry. He's sung Larry Charles' praises, and for good reason. And Larry Charles always has a twist, and his twist in this one is some fucking psychopathic killer on the cover of Time magazine going after George. I mean, how does he pull this into this episode? Just a mundane, to me, this and the subway are very, very similar. So many similarities. Very much Larry Charles all over it. Elaine in trouble. Elaine's in a monologue. Kramer gets mugged. And this one, you got the crazy guy in the bathroom with George. So it's Larry Charles to a T. Bell tolls for Gosebard. Honolulu, Howard mentioned. I mean, duty free shop. I love.
You got to run like a man, knees up. You didn't even mention that.
I was about to. I literally was about to. It was one of my ups. I love Jerry's face. There's very few downs, and the downs are tough to come by. I'm just giving it an A. I'm not getting crazy here. It's O'Hara's A+. It's my A. I mean, the downs.
But that doesn't feel like a genuine A. Do you have A on there the whole time?
I had A-. I went up a little bit, I got to say. As I'm talking this through, I did go up. I had A-. I was going to give it an A- the whole time. And there's just
stick with your guns.
No, there's so much there. There's a lot there. I think it's an A episode. I'd be disingenuous if I gave it anything lower, I think, in the A range. I think it's a low A. I think it's an A-A. I think the Jerry model stuff gets overplayed. That's my biggest down with this. And if you like that, then it's obviously going to bring it up. To me, it just seems like a repeated joke that, like, do we need to repeat it that many times? It's the same fucking joke. We get it, To me, that I don't like those episodes. I feel like there should be a different joke in that scene.
You don't like those? You just gave it an
A. That's a fair point.
What are we doing here?
But I mean, it's a great episode. I mean, it's there's no way around it. But yeah, Airport's an A. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I disappointed you with my good grade, but you wanted me to go lower. I was gonna go an A-, but I'm sticking to my guns here. It's an A. The Airport's an A. You can't knock it.
Well, listen. Any way you want to give a grade, it is an A+. America loves this episode. I think.
I don't know if they do. Tell us in the comments.
Really?
Yeah. Tell them to.
All right. Well, hey, everybody out there, leave a comment. And let us know what you think of the Airport, because I think it's one of the best. Definitely a top 10 all-time Seinfeld episode. So, again, thank you guys for your ups and your downs and your grades, and we'll see everybody out in your next episode.